Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the 10th episode of the Charged Up podcast. I said welcome back to the 10th episode as if this is like a resuming of the former 10th episode. But no, this is just the 10th. Yeah, this is just the 10th episode. Sorry if you were confused by that. Or if I just confused you more by clarifying. Whatever. I'm Justin. I'm your friendly host. And with me, as always, is the self-proclaimed marvelous one, Ben.
I have tapped into the alternate universe, and I can tell you, it's real.
You know, I'm kind of upset that I don't have like a self-proclaimed title. We'll have to work on that.
I mean, you know, you can just say the self-proclaimed zero score.
No, because I'm not zero score here. I'm Justin. No matter how many times you call me zero, I am Justin. Anyway. Tonight's guest is, yes, another Final Fantasy VI cast member.
Hashtag collusion.
10-button gamer, also known as David.
Hello! I play Strago from Final Fantasy VI.
You stole my role! I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
You wanted every role, though, role. To be fair.
True. That's why it's a joke.
But no, I realized before we started streaming that this is the 10th episode, and our guest is 10-button gamer, and I just... Little things like that just amuse the crap out of me.
I didn't even think about it until you mentioned it too.
Yeah, it's pretty great. I didn't know this was the 10th episode. I don't keep track of that very well. Anyway, we have a lot to cover tonight, so we're just going to jump right into it. But I wanted to open the show with a bit of a plea, because right now in the news, and, you know, this is a technology, nerd, you know, culture, all this type show. So right now in the news, there's a lot of talk about net neutrality and why it's important to support net neutrality. Even though all of the, you know, cable and internet companies out there want to abolish it so that they can make you pay extra for things that you shouldn't have to pay extra for. Basically, they're trying to monetize the, you know, quote-unquote free internet. I realize we pay to use the internet, but we shouldn't have to, you know, pay for the services that are currently free on the internet. So... I don't want to get into it too much right now, but please educate yourself. I'm going to put a few links down in the show notes, kind of special links this week, to some articles that can help you educate yourself. But I just wanted to open the show saying, you know, learn about what net neutrality is. It's important to everyone, especially if you care about the internet at all. And you should, because, you know, you're on it right now listening to this or watching this. So, yes. Anyway, that's my pitch right up the top. But we're going to start the show with David's topic because it's also kind of, you know, technology related tangentially. And you wanted to basically talk about how technology has changed in the past 20 years or so, basically since the kind of consumer creation of the internet in like the mid to late 90s when most people actually got it in their homes at least. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't know. Did you want me to start off with it all?
Yeah, it's your topic.
All right. Well, you know, I was born in '90, so I'm not really that old, to be honest. I'm 26 or whatnot. So, yeah, when I was around, internet was just becoming the thing when computers were coming out, and it's amazing how far we progressed. Like when we think about it, things like cell phones really weren't common when I was a kid. I don't remember anyone owning one until like in high school. But now, like, they used to be like big clunky things, flip phones, and now they're like, well, they haven't really decreased in size really. Now they're getting bigger, but now they've got it's a supercomputer in your palm all the time. It's ridiculous how fast. Like lately, because I've been taking in school, I have like data communications, networking, and stuff like that. And the problem with the progress of technology becoming so fast is we are actually sacrificing security, which is a big problem.
Like a lot of it is how fast they've improved, because when the first smartphone came out, like when the first iPhone, it was technically considered the first smartphone. I know there was like Palm and BlackBerry things like that before that, but they were more like personal handheld devices. This term smartphone I don't think came around until the iPhone, which was 2007. We're actually celebrating like the 10th year anniversary of it right now. Android came out in 2008, so we're getting close to that too. That's what a lot of people consider the era of the modern smartphone, since the iPhone was kind of a very niche product. They wanted to get like not even 10% of the market at that time. So yeah, essentially the iPhone was the first smartphone, but it was very simple. Like the first iPhone, I think, had barely anything in it. The operating system was super simple. It could run like a very small amount of apps in a store that was, specifically catered just for that one device. So obviously there wasn't a lot to use in it. I don't know the actual specs of it offhand, but I believe it was like a 500 megahertz processor or something like that. Like, just not great at all. And basically now, like, the phones that we have, like, in our pockets are more powerful than the computers were at that time.
Oh, yeah. Like, there was a couple of things I remember watching Bill Gates say, we wouldn't ever need more than, like, 8 megabytes or something like that to hold data or things like that. I've seen, like, and you're just looking going, my gosh, what would we can't even put, like, some music files that are, like, music files are bigger than 8 gigs if you're doing WAV format.
Yeah.
They're, like, can hit, like, 100 megabytes for some WAV files. So, yeah, these things are more powerful than the computers we were using then. And that's another thing, is that the technology is progressing. I'm not sure. I can't remember what my friend sent me a link. They're coming up with like a new material that is, I can't remember what it is. It's like they slowly like layer it down. It's like a long and expensive process, but we'd be getting like some ridiculous amount of speed that they haven't even measured yet. Like they can't even measure it because it's so fast, and they have the ability to make it. It would just cost like billions of dollars to make, but and it's the fact that we can actually do that. And it was only like 20 years ago where we were barely able to get a gig.
Yeah, are you talking about the actual like processing speed?
Yeah, processing speed.
Okay, because I think I know what you're talking about. There's actually like as things have gone on, they've figured out ways to make these chips smaller and smaller by basically stacking layers on top of each other instead of spreading out over a certain amount of space on a chipboard. They've managed to like kind of do like it would be the equivalent of like an apartment high rise. Instead of having like a whole neighborhood of houses scattered out like one floor, it's like you have a bunch of apartments that are, stacked on top of each other in a high rise. So what they do is they have multiple chipsets, or like, multiple cores if you're thinking of a processor, that are all very finely layered on top of each other, with like tiny little heat sinks between them. So it basically disperses out the heat evenly across it. So it's, the same as like something that's spread out over a larger surface area. And that way they can, for one, make everything smaller, so they can fit, more stuff into these boards on the cell phones and stuff without sacrificing speed. But they also, like, if they combine that with, the increased surface area that they would use now currently without stacking it, they could have that much more power in there in the same surface area.
Yeah, but is it a good thing or is it a bad thing that technology has progressed this fast, though?
I'd say in a lot of ways it's good.
I honestly see it as a good and a bad thing depending on what you're looking at. And depending on the user would be another thing. Like, technology's been great for, like, medical... Like, I'm not just talking about, like, just, our phones or computers. I'm talking about, like, technology, like, even medical technology, right? Like, it's great that we have, like, things like X-rays, MRIs, and all that stuff now that we're able to help people a lot more. But then we've also progressed technology to the point where we have drones doing all the fighting for us, which, yeah, that's better because then less lives are hurt. But now there's not, like, that whole, like... Now people are like, it's just easy to press a button and just decimate a whole country, right?
Right. Killing people doesn't mean as much when you're not doing it yourself, if you think of it that way.
It's more like a video game at that point, and it's like you don't feel it as much, I guess.
Yeah. I've seen some people, like the remote, like the remote drone operators or whatever, say it's like a game. Like they practice in like a simulation machine that is essentially like a, VR game. And then they get out in the field, and there's no disconnect there. Like, they actually do use a lot of video games currently for like army training and stuff. Like, I think there was an actual game that went to commercial release. It was like Army of Two or something. I don't remember what it was called. That might not be the title, but it was something like that. There was a very realistic, like technical, like third-person shooter, and people like were actually using that for specific army training. Just kind of get used to, not necessarily to learn how to shoot a gun or anything, but to understand like the conditions of combat.
Yeah.
To get a feel for like how that works, tactics. Like they would play it together and figure out, their squad tactics and things like that in a virtual simulation, and then they would take that out in the field with their actual guns, after they've done their proper training and everything like that, and it would be a lot more tense. It would be like, if you actually played PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, like as a person, if you were in like a battle royale situation, like that's super scary. Yeah. But if you're just sending out a drone, like if there's no, I think of, did you see Guardians of the Galaxy 2?
I haven't seen either of them.
Oh, okay. Well, that's embarrassing. Ben, you know what I'm talking about, though, right? Yes. Aisha sends out her like army of people, but they're literally in just like these big kind of like these. They almost look like exercise bike pods, and they kind of they move side to side like those motorcycle games at the arcades. Okay. And they make like little pew pew sounds whenever you and like the whole pod is like a screen.
All right.
And so like what you see is just all these people in a virtual reality situation, but then like you actually cut out to the space and it's like all of these like death machines basically like flying after the Guardians trying to kill them, and like the Guardians are taking a bunch of them out, and then it cuts back and the people are just like like they like their system or whatever has been taken out because they don't have anything to control anymore. So they're just upset. It's like a game over screen basically to them. Like it doesn't mean anything because it's all virtual. And so like you're not on the field doing the damage. Like there's no, threat to your life.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean as much. And so there's good and bad there. But outside of that realm, like I get that, it's better there to not like risk our troops' lives. But then again, like you said, there's no, weight to the killing that they're doing. I don't want to call it murder because, it's...
No. Yeah.
But the killing that they're doing doesn't mean as much as if there's actual, like, threat to your own life.
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems more honorable. And I'm probably just, being dumb because I don't understand this stuff. I can't go to war.
No.
But, yeah, it seems different to me. But... You mentioned, other fields. I kind of want to get back to like the net neutrality thing, because in that way, like, I'd say part of the problem with how fast technology has moved is that like legislation and things like that can't necessarily keep up. You get all of these companies that are just kind of popping up out of nowhere, like even cases like Uber, where they created an entire business infrastructure built around a smartphone app that calls someone to come pick you up and take you somewhere, that, takes the taxi service out of commission, basically, in some cities, because why would you take a taxi when you can just call a personalized, person that you trust and is cheaper to take you wherever you want to go, and you don't have to, like, hail someone out in the street, you don't have to risk sharing it, or, like, them, getting lost, or whatever the case is, like, it's more, I don't know, it's more direct. And cases like, these cable companies that are like buying each other up and like monopolizing and all this crazy stuff that like is probably dangerous to the actual, like the economic structure of the internet. But it all happens so fast that we don't know how to handle it. Like there's no laws in place to govern this stuff. So there's nothing stopping them from doing it. And I know I'm kind of like, talking around a bunch of things at once, but it all does tie together. Like, these apps that pop up out of nowhere and are like legit businesses, like multi-million or billion-dollar businesses within 2 to 3 years. Like, when was the first time you heard about Uber?
To be honest, only like 2 years ago.
Yeah. It's been around. I mean, I'm sure it's been around longer than that. But like, as far as I've known, it happened in like maybe 2010, 2011, which is like 5 years now, but that's like, the creation of the business, not when it became popular and viable and everything like that. And now they're like working on their own, like, self-driving car technology and stuff like that. We've talked about that before on the show. Then you get things like AT&T buying DirecTV. So now one of the biggest like telecommunications companies bought one of the biggest like cable, cable like broadcast providers, and they're really pushing for this whole like kill net neutrality thing, and there's nothing to stop them from it. So as all of this stuff is becoming more popular and like, more like integrated into our lives, like the internet is literally a utility. It was classified as such a few years ago. And now like what's been set as like high speed internet, everyone tries to kind of like sneak around to, not like technically reach. 'Cause I think it's supposed to be like, you have to have at least like a megabyte or like 3 megabytes a second. I don't know. I forgot to do the research for this, honestly. I ran out of time. But I do, know enough from my past research. I just don't remember exact numbers. But yeah, there's a specific limit set for like what high-speed internet is. And these providers will say, oh, we've reached up to that. So it is high speed, but you never actually get that because they throttle it.
No. Yeah, no, it's a throughput. There's their bandwidth, and then there's a throughput. Your throughput is how much data you're actually receiving based off of your package or whatever you have.
Right. So then you get these situations of, again, there's no legislation in place to stop them. And, they're the ones calling the shots because they own literally everything involved in it. Like, Verizon's been buying up companies like crazy, too. Sprint would if they could afford to. Shots fired. And you get all this stuff of, like, these big companies getting bigger and essentially controlling the internet that has only been around for long enough for really it to start being like a major player in all this stuff in the past, 10 years or so, since smartphones became a thing in everyone's pockets that, are our main sources of searching the internet. So it's honestly happening too fast for the government and like the local laws and things like that to keep up because the government moves so slowly.
Yeah. Which is, again, going back to the whole security thing, is this because the technology is advancing so fast, the security isn't keeping up, and that's causing so many issues. Like, and I think the new Bluetooth 5 just came out, or they're just coming out with it soon. I can't remember.
Yeah, there's prototypes for it.
I don't know. Pardon? Oh yeah, there's prototypes for it. Well, they're thinking of simple things like even having Bluetooth on your fridge and having it, then it'll also be connecting to your internet, which means you're gonna have to have more IP addresses or IPv6s for each. You're gonna have like so many possible options for IP, and the point is, it's supposed to be able to connect to your phone, so it'll tell you what you need for your refrigerator. But think about how many people will be able to see that information because they haven't taken in security amount.
Well, they already have smart fridges. You can literally, like, you can go into an app and see what's inside your fridge to know if you need to buy anything while you're out. But it's like, it's connected to your Wi-Fi at home, and then, like, you know, you use the data on your phone to sync to that, like, the app. And it works that way, like, remotely instead of Bluetooth or anything, because Bluetooth is close range.
Yeah, but it's just all these... Bluetooth is... Yeah, that... But it's just, like, all this technology, and the thing is they haven't really worried about security too much. They just keep adding additionals, like, kind of like, what's the protocols and stuff like that on top of everything, and assuming this is going to make it so it's more protected, but they haven't really thought it through, because there's only so much you can do when the advanced... Security is increasing, let's just say a percentage, security is going up. They, every time they get like a new thing, but technology goes up by like 20 new things, and it'll never catch up at this rate.
Yeah, and because of the time it takes for R&D and stuff like that, like now, the trend, especially with how quickly things like word of mouth spreads on the internet, like trends move faster than the R&D can keep up. So by the time a new product comes out, it's like people have already moved on.
Yeah. That's why we have marketable people, because they try to predict the future.
Mm-hmm. And that is key these days. But I think that's the bigger problem, I'd say, with how fast things have moved. Because technology itself, like, it can only move so fast. But people are faster than ever. Like, if you think back to, 20 or even 10 years ago, everyone wasn't on the internet. Like, still everyone isn't on the internet, but a larger portion are. And so you'd get, like the news, for example, the news cycle wouldn't move as quickly. And like the, trends, would stick around longer. Like memes were kind of a thing. I mean, they've been around pretty much since the early days of GeoCities, when people would have like big, flash things all over the screen. It would happen, God. But yeah. GeoCities.
Wow.
Deep
I haven't
cut
heard that
right
in
there.
so long.
And now, like, everyone's constantly online. Like, if you go into any restaurant, you'll see, you know, parents trying to engage with their kids who are just on Snapchat or whatever, like, you know, doing poses constantly with their friends. You might get them to say a word, but they're not going to look up from their phones to say it. And so, like, it's impossible to keep up. It's ridiculous how fast, like, if you don't keep up on something, like, within the day or two, it's old news. It's like, oh, I heard about that yesterday. You're so behind. Like, the hyperbolic nature of, you know, the internet culture has become ridiculous. That's why, like, everything's live now. Like, if you actually have, which I know is a little bit ironic since we're live now, but it's so that we can keep up with the news. Like, this podcast goes out literally, like, for the public at least, a week after it's filmed. So by the time, you know, the general people hear about it, like, again, it's old news. So that's why I like to kind of do the topics and stuff first to engage people, so that by the time it gets to the news, it's just kind of like, hey, here's our opinions on it. But literally, like, every news outlet, even, like, if it's just, you know, online nerd news, like, if they have, like, a, you know, production budget of any kind, they do all their news stuff live. Like, they'll write the script beforehand, they'll get it all prepped, and then they'll go live within, like, an hour or two of the news dropping. Or there's, like, the Collider. Like, I listen to a lot of Collider podcasts at work, because, again, I listen to a lot of podcasts. And they literally do daily shows of, like, news and TV, or sorry, like, movie and TV news. And they'll just kind of run down the list of, like, what's been announced. And sometimes stuff will get announced, like, as they're rolling. And, like, oh, we just heard, like, this just happened. And it's, like, you can't keep up. There's so many things coming out every minute of the day. And, like, you know, memes and, like, dabbing and all that stuff. Like, the things that, like, kids, like, know about.
What's dabbing?
I never thought I would be one of those old people that is like, you know, I don't care. I don't understand the trends these kids are doing these days. But I don't. Like, I don't care.
I'm totally that old man.
Yeah. Like, it gets to the point where, like, no matter, like, how in the know you are, like, I try to stay up on pop culture. It's, you know, quote unquote, my job here. Like, sure, we're not paid for it, but, like, it's good to keep up and, like, you know, help people learn about this stuff. And be knowledgeable on it, at least to some extent, even if I don't know, you know, statistics. But, like, I can't keep up with all the stuff that happens. I see new memes on Twitter every day, and I'm like, when did this happen? And then suddenly it's everywhere. Within, like, a day, the meme is exhausted and retired, and then the next one's out. It used to be, like, there was, you know, maybe a month for meme trends, and then there was, like, a week, and now it's, like, a day, and everything's exhausted. Like, yeah. All the jokes are done for that meme.
Yeah, no, I've never got into the memes. I'm that old man who refused to go with the trends. It was only like a year and a half ago, I think, or 2 years that I got Twitter and Facebook. I was like the last person to get Facebook. I just honestly was like the guy who was like, oh, I don't trust these technology people. I don't understand.
And that's why you're an old man.
That's why I'm an old man. I'm one of those people who is semi against technology in one way, believe it or not. I just
what way?
Just the fact that okay, maybe I'm not against technology. I'm against the it's not controlled right. There needs to be some more control with the technology. There needs to be more control around, like if it be something as simple as like, hey, kids really shouldn't have a phone at the age of 8, like, right. or like even like. They'll never be able to control the internet. The internet's... We don't even know what... That's the funny thing is, we really don't even know what the internet is. We know it's a series of computers connecting to one another, but what is it exactly?
It's a series of tubes.
Yeah, it's tubes.
That's an old one.
Yeah, I know. That's all I got.
That's like 2006.
Tubes.
But no, like, we really don't know what it is. We just see it as webs or, a series of tubes. But we actually, it doesn't have some sort of, nothing physical, nothing actually there. There's nothing, it's just a bunch of servers in a bunch of dry, cool basements holding information. Useless information.
Google has literal server farms. Like, entire, like, multi-level buildings that are just for their, like, infrastructure. It's crazy. Yep. And they have off-site ones in case something happened to that.
Yeah, one server will cover just a single word for a search in Google. A whole tower server. Like, that's ridiculous.
There's like 4 servers just for Trump results. No, the point is basically like technology has moved so quickly these days that like it makes me feel like an old person already. And like growing up, I never thought, granted, I grew up like when I don't want to say I grew up when the internet was created, but like, I'm 89, I'm not really any older than you, but like we got our first computer in like 98 or something like that. I had, AOL, dial up.
Yeah.
Got that you've got mail every time we sign in. I was there for like the inception of like AIM and like MSN Messenger and all that stuff. So like when I, like got onto the internet, I think I was like 10 maybe. And wait, that wasn't 98. Was it? How old am I?
No, that would be 90. No, that'd be when you were
I'm
10, it'd be like
28.
2001, wouldn't it?
I'm 28. So that would be, I don't know. I'm not going to do math right now. I was 9 or 10. Let's just assume that. We're going to talk later about continuity. So just ignore the continuity of this. And so like I wasn't like, born into the internet era basically. Like there's kids now that like know how to, touch a phone or a tablet before they know how to speak. And
Wow.
so of course everything's going to move quicker for them because they can troubleshoot your iPad by the by the age that I was like learning what the internet was. And
But there's one thing they can't do is socialize.
Yeah,
in person.
Exactly. That's kind of what I was going to get to. Is like because of that, like I grew up kind of like I've always been a bit of a loner, so like the internet kind of opened me up more, honestly, because like before that I played with like my action figures and occasionally talked to my brother if he would actually indulge me. But like, I said last week, like I had just a single mother who like was working a lot, so it's just me and my brother at home. Sometimes we go to my grandma's and we play card games and stuff like that. Like I didn't have a lot of friends growing up or anything like that. So like when the internet came out, it was like I could go to, online message boards and like find friends online that I still have. Like there's like some of my Facebook friends, like people I knew from message boards when I was like 13. And so, there was that kind of stuff that helped me socialize. But like I understood like person to person communication before the internet came out. But now, like, you get these people that literally, like, their entire communication is, either texting or Twitter or, like, Instagram. And they get this, like, we talked before about, God worship. And we get these people that, like, just talk to celebrities and stuff like that like they're their friends because they don't know any different. They have no sense of, like, what authority is, for one. All of these situations of people videotaping every single... Videotaping? I am old.
I know what you're talking about. Don't worry.
How else do you say that though? Like videoing, like video recording,
recording,
okay. Yeah.
Sorry,
Just
recording.
Justin, come on.
Everything. We have to specify video because you can audio record or whatever. I don't need you to talk down to me. You get these situations of people that like video every second of their lives so that they can like shame people. I was just watching a Philip DeFranco video before this because I like to kind of go to him to see if there's anything I've missed, as far as the news for the day. And he was talking about this chick at a grocery store that was caught by the loss prevention team for stealing a candy bar and was basically resisting their their attempts to get her to like comply with, hey, you need to come with us and we can write up a theft report for this. She was like wriggling around like trying to get out of their grasp and everything. And there were people walking by telling them to like put her down and like, you're hurting her. Like she was the victim in that situation, even though, yeah, she was a girl, like like 14, 15, something like that. But she was committing a crime. Like, yes, it was just a candy bar, not a big deal. But like, I worked as a security guard. I know like the loss prevention team has to track everything. Like, I saw some guy get caught for sushi, like one thing of sushi. And, they had to treat it just like if he had taken like $100 worth of groceries. Like, it's all the same. And so because of all this, like there was, video recordings of these people saying like, you have to put her down, you're hurting her. And they're like trying to, get these people out of the scene because they're in the way of what they're trying to do, like get her back in the store and everything. And it's ridiculous. Like, all these people, like, on their, on their phones constantly, on the internet constantly, like, they don't understand, like, societal norms anymore, which I don't think anything is necessarily normal, but, there should be rules and regulations as far as how you interact with the world. And I do think that there should be some laws and restrictions placed on, internet, like, searching and things like that, like how you use the internet, basically, not, what you search for or anything. I just don't think it should be done by cable companies that have invested interest in the internet, monetary interest in the internet. I think it should be by the government that sets all of our other laws and everything. And so I feel like everything has moved so fast that it's gotten out of hand to a point where, like, it's a battleground. Everyone thinks they're right. Everyone has their own soapbox. Like, everyone's entitled. It's crazy. And the more, like, the faster technology moves, the more connected we all are in some way. I mean, the fact that, there are, like, fridges connected to the internet, and you can, like, pull up Twitter on your fridge while you're, like, doing your chores, and, like, there's Alexa that can read things for you, like all the Amazon products that can read things for you. And we talked about, like, the Alexa show that has a screen on it, and you can, like, watch stuff, on that. You just, like, say a voice command, like, hey, pull up, YouTube video, whatever, and you can just, like, watch stuff on your show, and, like, there's a camera on it so people can invade your everyday life if you let them. And, like, all of this stuff is so invasive, and there's nothing to control it. And that's the problem. I don't think the technology itself is the problem. I think it's how it's been treated over the years and how fast it's all moving in a way that hasn't been regulated yet. So now we all feel entitled because there hasn't been regulation, so why should there be now? We're all used to it at this point.
No, you're absolutely right. Like, and you were talking about before, like, the social, like, there's no longer social norms, like, which is kind of weird. We all have, like, regular social norms, like some things like, eating with your mouth closed and stuff like that. Those ones are there, but internet and technology itself should have that same social norm as we've given everything else in our life, right? Like, again, chewing with your mouth closed, don't talk with your mouth full, things like that. We should have similar things, kind of the internet, those social norms or internet norms, if you want to call them that, social media norms or something like that. We need that because you're right. There's things like the technology, like everyone has a phone, they're going to throw a video, which means, we're just going to make, like, it's making, like, police officers' jobs, making them look all evil. They're not. It's not every single one of them is going to be corrupted. In fact, it's not that many that are corrupted. There's only, like, a small percent, but everyone sees that small percent, or they took the parts that are good, but they completely throw it out of context. And they don't get anything, like, they're not punished for things like that.
Right. And it is generally, like, in all cases, really, the minority that takes the punishment for the majority. I mean that in both, racial ideas and also just, like, in the, minority groups, as far as, like, the few corrupt police officers, or, like, the one side you see of someone's video. Because that's the other thing, is, like, when everything is recorded, it's so easy to be subjective about it, because you're only seeing the angle that someone got, or, like, the testimony of the person. And so it's gotten to the point where, like, everyone becomes a critic. Well, we'll talk about that later too, but, like, everyone has an opinion on everything because they're like, well, I saw that footage, like, I know what happened when they weren't there. And so, like, that testimony becomes more important. Like, if it's someone that's actually important, like, a celebrity or something like that speaks out about just, like, a video they saw, even if they weren't there, and, like, the everyday person that was there can be like, hey, that's not what happened, this person's lying. They don't get the same kind of outreach.
No.
So
Yeah.
there's all kinds of problems. Like, I don't know how to fix it at this point, honestly. It's all moved too quickly to really be, like, a quick fix. But net neutrality is not the way to fix it. I firmly believe that, like, putting, like, actual ISP restrictions on the internet will not fix anything. It'll just make people more outraged. We need actual, like, regulation on the books. But even then, like, the internet is such a vast open place that is essentially, like, by nature, free and available to everyone. Since it started as a source of knowledge, how can you really put restrictions on it anyway? So I don't know if there even is a good answer.
There really isn't a good answer. It's one of those things where there's no answer. We're just trying to come up with the answer. It's like trying to find the answer to the universe, and don't say the number, I swear to God. But yeah, it's like we won't know the answer. The internet is the universe. It's continuously growing. Sure, it's mostly cats and other adult material, but it's continuously growing, and there's no way to fix it now. That we can't develop the social media norms anymore. It's too late. It's too far gone. But if we could even find even a small, simple way to slightly improve it, it could save so many other future problems ahead.
Yeah. And that's a shame, too, because there's so many good things on the internet. Not just this podcast, but...
I know, my YouTube channel.
That was dumb. Yeah. all of us is what I meant. Like, collectively, the group of us. But also, like all of the good media and stuff out there. Shameless segue, I'll admit.
Yeah.
There's really no good way to get off that topic, honestly. Kind of in a roundabout way. I wanted to discuss the new Spider-Man movie. Because at least me and Ben saw that. I assume you probably didn't, David, because you don't apparently watch anything.
Well, it's not that I don't watch anything. I'm in school about 22 hours a week, and then I have to do additional... So about 48 hours a week I'm doing school, basically. And then if I'm not doing school, I'm sleeping, eating, or talking to my fiance because we don't live together. It's like a 3-hour drive to see her, so...
That'd be hard.
Yeah.
I get that. I was just mostly making a joke. But,
Oh, no. If you're going to make fun of me, I'm just going to come back hard and make you feel bad now.
Well, job well done.
I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. I'm just kidding. I'm so sorry.
Ha, get the pity
And this
vote.
is coming down from my deep Canadian
now.
heart. I am so sorry.
Typical. I make you the victim and you still apologize.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Again.
So
anyway, to get to the actual topic, I want to do like a quick, like maybe 5-minute, spoiler-free review of Spider-Man, and then kind of get into why, like, I want to bring it up, because I there are kind of a few things to like explain about the movie before we actually get into the topic. But Ben, do you have any thoughts on it? I know you saw it last night, and I actually haven't even heard your thoughts at all privately, even.
I went in jaded, and it's the best Spider-Man movie of all time. That's all I have to say.
All right, that's a good quickie review. I agree to an extent. I still hold fast to what I put on Twitter that it's the best Peter Parker movie. I'm one of those dumb people that really liked the Amazing Spider-Man movies. Like, yes, the second one is very flawed, as far as like world building and stuff like that. But if you don't hold that against it, it still has some really good moments and some of the best like Spider-Man action in any of the, what is it now, 6 movies? I guess 7 if you count Civil War. And really pretty much any that I've seen in like TV shows or anything like that. Because like the stuff between him and Electro was just fantastic and like visually beautiful and just like well shot and everything. But the first Amazing Spider-Man I still say is like the best Spider-Man we've seen on like media of any kind. Just because like I felt like he really nailed like the funniness, like the wit, the powers, not relying on like gadgets or anything, just like his, physical ability. And again, it had some great memorable fight scenes, like the stuff with Lizard in the school, like all that was really fun. This one,
but what about Homecoming?
Yeah, I know. This one, like all of the stuff in the school was great, like with him and his friends and everything. I just felt like the action scenes themselves weren't terribly memorable. And the big thing everyone was saying about this movie was it's good because if you take all the Spider-Man stuff out of it, it's still a really good high school movie. And I agree with that. It is a really good high school movie. But the Spider-Man stuff, I'd argue, is the weakest part. Because so much of it is like trying to not be the other Spider-Man movies that it kind of like it falls on the other aspects of Spider-Man, like the gadgets that he acquires from other people. And
you mean like with great power comes great responsibility while it's shoehorning into the whole plot, the entire film?
I mean, that is Spider-Man, really. But no, I don't mind that wasn't there. That was fine. I'm just saying, like, so much of it was about, like, his suit, like, figuring out the powers of his suit just for, well, again, we're not doing spoilers, but just for that to not really be a big part of the actual movie, that it felt like it was too much, like, too much like tangential stuff around the Spider-Man character and not enough about like why Spider-Man is great. Peter Parker was fantastic. Like, he was awesome. And I liked the stuff around his Spider-Man as far as like being kind of wet behind the ears and like, you know, failing multiple times throughout the movie. I liked all of that stuff. But like the actual like Spider-Man action didn't really feel that memorable. Like probably the best one was like the Washington Monument stuff that was in the trailers, I should say, because they spoiled everything. And even that, like, it wasn't. I get that they didn't really get like a major action director or anything into it, but neither was Mark Webb, and he shot some way better action. But it all felt kind of like traditional, I guess, like as far as how it was shot. The way the action was just there. I'm being nitpicky, but I was disappointed in the action stuff, but like all of the emotional beats, all of the character beats, all of that stuff was amazing. I still like, I hold it up there as like one of the top ones. I'm one of the weird people that doesn't really like the Sam Raimi trilogy like as much at all. Spider-Man 2 is an amazing movie, but I don't think it's the best one. Just personal preference, because I just don't like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. And when you have a movie that hinges on the actor, that's going to kill the entire trilogy for me. So I show favorable treatment to Andrew Garfield's movies because he's the best. But Tom Holland is fantastic. He embodies Spider-Man and Peter Parker in a way that the others haven't. But I don't feel like this movie did his Spider-Man service. So there's that. But the way the movie is structured is very, like, kind of strange. Because it starts with the villain, which this is easily the best Marvel Universe villain, even though it's a Sony movie. I thought they did great with like his motivations, how he's not like totally a villain. He just does bad things for arguably good reasons. But he's also, I mean, he's not a good person, but he doesn't inherently try to do more bad than like he thinks he should, if that makes sense. Like he's a thief, he's a criminal, but like he's not a murderer. He's not like, this really bad guy. He's just doing what he has to survive. So the movie opens with him, which I think is really, really interesting and like clever and kind of a subverting way, because it's like before the opening crawl even comes in. And then there's some weird like like phone footage. I think they kind of released some of this already, so I could talk about it kind of tangentially. But they released some weird phone footage of like Spider-Man like getting his suit and stuff like that. And like it's not really clear like where it takes place until it kind of gets like it places itself in the universe of like where it is. It's hard to not do spoilers for this. And then they do like after all that footage and everything, they do an 8-year jump. Or sorry, no, they do an 8-year jump before that. They show this is a mess. They show the Vulture, then they do an 8-year jump, then they show like the Spider-Man stuff, and then they do an 8-month jump. That's what I was thinking of, to where like the proper movie starts. So like basically a lot of like time passed in the very beginning of the movie. And apparently the big deal here, like why everyone is upset about this, is because it sets the first part of the movie. This is going to be light spoilers, but it's not that big a deal. It's like literally the first 5 minutes of the movie. It sets the first Vulture stuff right after the Avengers. Was it Avengers 1 or Avengers 2?
Avengers 1.
That's what I thought.
They're
Yeah.
in Manhattan.
Yeah, it set it right after Avengers 1, where like they're cleaning up the Chitauri invasion, and like they see all that tech and everything, and then it was an 8-year jump to essentially around like Civil War time, and then that 8-month jump past Civil War to where like Homecoming takes place officially. And then all of that is pretty much like within the span of like maybe a week. But everyone was like freaking out because like they assumed Homecoming was modern day. But the 8-year jump would mean that the first Avengers took place in 2009 then. Right? Yeah. I guess technically 2008 because there's also an 8-month jump with Civil War because that was 2016. So yeah. It would be 2008, which is when the Marvel Universe started with Iron Man 1. So apparently there's this like big riot right now about how Spider-Man Homecoming like screws up the Marvel Cinematic Universe in one fell swoop, just by like the way it, you know, actually sets its time. Which very few Marvel movies have done, to be fair, for that specific reason, because they don't want to have people, you know, figure out their timelines and stuff. The only one I can think of that does it is kind of Civil War, because you can see like some calendars. And then I think Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is 2014. So, yeah, everything that they'd led up to so far basically said that Avengers takes place in 2012, which would mean that 8-year jump puts Spider-Man Homecoming in 2020. But they've already said that that Infinity War is supposed to be in 2018, and that obviously this is before that. And that Iron Man is apparently supposed to take place in 2010, which is confusing because I thought it came out in 2008 and was set in 2008, but whatever, that's beside the point. So this whole big deal basically about how like the timeline is wrong now because of this time jump in this movie. And Marvel hasn't officially commented on it. I feel like they don't really need to. But yeah, I kind of wanted to like use this to explain why continuity shouldn't really be that big of a deal. I get that they are trying to build like an expanded universe here. It's all, you know, it's all shared and everything, but they've specifically avoided talking about dates or anything because they don't want this kind of crap to happen. Like, it doesn't matter to them, like, the specific dates, unless it does, like, with Guardians of the Galaxy 2, because they wanted to specifically, like, use that time period, you know, to their advantage. It doesn't much, but, you know, it does set it there for a reason. Or, like, the first Captain America, where obviously it's not modern times, so they want to specify the date, and then it just jumps to modern time, like, nondescript modern time at the end of that. Things like that. So they've purposefully avoided dates. Which is why I think it's kind of dumb they put that time jump. They didn't really they could have just put like sometime later or actually figured their correct date out, because apparently they didn't. But they didn't really need to do that in the first place, because you could figure out, oh, okay, this you know, Vulture scene is taking place after Avengers. They're talking about the battle. It's directly after that, obviously. And then, like I said, it cuts to like phone footage around the time of Civil War. So, okay, I get that. Like, that also makes sense. It, you know, here's young Spider-Man, he's getting a suit, we know when this is going to be. Like, it's not, you don't need that time. You don't need dates really at any time. And that's why it's dumb to, like, focus on continuity, because it doesn't matter to them. Why should it matter to the audience? It's the same, I'd say, with, like, the X-Men universe. And, Ben, I know you have stuff to say about this. That's why I'm trying to get all this out. It's the same, I'd say, with the X-Men universe, because, like, they had, you know, the first original trilogy, and then they rebooted it, like, officially rebooted it with First Class, and then retconned that reboot with Days of Future Past, where they tied the two universes together, which you could argue was just kind of across dimensions, but they basically just said was a time thing. And then basically used that to, like, completely separate them out so that the original universe takes place in a different timeline where obviously, you know, like the stuff they did in Days of Future Past, like, didn't happen that way. And so that way they can continue on with their own new continuity with like Apocalypse and then now like Dark Phoenix and stuff. But they're also doing 10-year jumps every time. So like, if they're establishing that is in canon of the, you know, timeline, even though it's not like the events aren't canon anymore, they're going to get to the 90s and the 2000s if they keep going, and they're going to have different actors playing those characters, even though they showed the older versions of them, you know, with their younger versions that did happen in like the 90s and 2000s with that first trilogy. So again, continuity issues. They don't care. They're just continuing on with their movies. Then you get Logan, which is, you know, further in the future, and has like Patrick Stewart as their Professor X instead of the younger Professor X, and it's all like, they don't care. They're just making their movies in their timelines. Not a big deal. They don't really seem to be bothered by it. Especially when you factor in, like, you know, Ryan Reynolds played 2 separate Deadpools and 2 separate X-Men movies. They don't seem to care. So I don't get why this is such a big deal. People make too big deal about continuity.
I mean, I agree. Like, I've been reading comics all of my life, and I used to be a stickler for continuity, and in the 80s it was a big thing. I wasn't born in the 80s, but I've read a lot of 80s comic books where you'll hear references and the character will show up and like, well, this thing's happening over here. You should go check that out. I think personally, the Sony / Marvel, Disney, whoever decided, shot themselves in the foot by putting the 8-year jump.
Right.
Because if you just put that scene of Vulture and the Tinker and Scorpion, all in there,
it was shocking.
Nobody and well, Scorpion's in there too.
Was he? I didn't see him in the beginning. Okay.
Yeah, he's not in there, but he's one of the characters. His name Mark Gagin, who's a Scorpion.
Right. No, I don't remember seeing him until the ferry scene, but that's beside the point.
Anyways, but like, because like most people don't care, if you just have that scene and don't say 8 years earlier or something, and it's just people are gonna recognize that battleground of Avengers Tower, and they're gonna know it. And I think they shot themselves in the foot, just like Marvel comics. I know you don't really read superhero comics like I do, Justin, but like Marvel and even not so much DC, because DC so much lives in a timeless bubble where like they don't really reference anything in the real world, versus Marvel has always been planted in the real world. That Marvel has this sort of sliding timeline where everything that's happened now, like we're in 2017, Captain America was discovered in 2007, basically, not in 1963. They never publicly acknowledged that, but it's sort of the default sliding timeline. Like Punisher wasn't in Vietnam, he was in Gulf War, stuff like that. And you just accept those. And just like this, you accept it when people will, because it's going to happen, when they binge watch every single Marvel movie leading up to Infinity War, because Lord knows I'm going to do that too. It's not going to matter. I mean, like it's not going to matter. It's going to be one of those things where like you just watch it. It's glaring, and it's kind of like, it made me scratch my head a little bit. Like, wait, that's not right. But at the end of the day, it was one scene. It still enjoyed the movie. Heck, I wouldn't be surprised if in the Blu-ray release or DVD release they just cut that 8 years later portion and just have that scene. That to me seems like the right decision.
I feel like it's too late now.
Maybe they won't. I mean, probably, yeah, but it's like, as you go on, like, that becomes the definitive version, so just why not? Or, something like that. But ultimately, it doesn't matter. Continuity does not matter, because at the end of the day, as long as the core structure is still there, the timeline may jump, but as long as the events aren't retconned, that's when you're in trouble. When they say certain things happened, and then you look back at the movie, it's like, well, no, this did happen. Like, for instance, in the new Thor movie, they say, well, Loki never attacked a small Oklahoma town. Then you look at Thor, like, it's right here.
Yeah.
It's right. It's right here. I tweeted it all out. I worked on this story for a whole year, and I tweeted it out. Anyways, yeah, so it's like that's when continuity becomes a problem, when they actively start denying shit happens. And that happens in comics all the time, where writers will come in and they'll say, well, this has never happened before. And then, like, not everybody cares, but I'll have read it. Like, say, it happened in Swamp Thing, the most recent volume of Swamp Thing, where they were referring to something, like, well, this didn't happen. I'm like, I have the comic right here, it says it did happen. So don't play with your audience's intelligence in that. Don't patronize them at this. Like, acknowledge it or don't acknowledge it, but don't say something didn't happen when we clearly saw it happen. I understand retelling things for a certain, but that's besides the point. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, you're still going to, whoever's watching and bitching about it, you're still going to do your super mega long, ultra long marathon of the Avengers Marvel Cinematic Universe leading up to Infinity War, and you're just going to have to just deal with it and suck it, nerds.
Yeah. Well, it's also weird because, like, kind of on the note of events, I have more to say about this, but just as a little side note, like, you said, like, making different events, like, not happen or whatever. They, like, officially confirmed, I think it was basically a retcon, but they officially confirmed that the little kid in Iron Man 2 that, like, has the mask on and, like, shoots down some, like, one of the rogue robots or something. I don't remember what it is exactly, but it's like Iron Man sees him and he's like good shot, kid. They officially confirmed that is, like, a young Peter Parker.
That's dumb.
Yeah.
See, that's retconning bullshit.
Right, that is dumb, but I think it was a Tom Holland thing. But he said it.
Yeah.
But I think he said that it was like an official thing. Like, they were basically making that true. So he's always looked up to Iron Man because of that event.
See, you can have that without like publicly saying shit like that. I mean, like ideally, you can say Spider-Man's been in the background this entire time. I mean, he hasn't because we know, but like he's been in the background. You just never see him.
Well, I mean, he probably wasn't Spider-Man then. He was just a kid that like got a hold of a repulsor and shot someone. But that sounded bad.
Right. It's just that. It's one thing to, like, when he is Spider-Man and, like, they don't acknowledge him until now, like, oh, he's just in the background. But then for, like, the actors or the producers to say, oh, no, that was totally Peter Parker. And I'm like, okay, now we're getting into some, like, bullshit right here. Because we know it's not.
Yeah, it wasn't at the time, but apparently now it is. Like, you can't just do that. But that does happen in comics all the time, too, because you get situations with, like, you know, they'll set something up just in hopes that maybe they can do it. And if they can't, they just drop that thread. Or they say, oh, it was just an Easter egg. Which there are a few of those in this movie, too, that Feige just kind of said, like, yeah, we might get back to that, we might not, we'll see. Which I would be so upset if they didn't, but that's beside the point. But then, like, if they do, it, like, usually ends up being some convoluted thing of, like, oh, yeah, we set that up, like, 3 years ago, don't you remember? In, like, issue 3, and now we're on, you know, like, 36 or whatever, and we're finally paying it off. Or they'll do something where it's like, you know, a different writer came in and didn't like what the previous writer did. So he's like, oh, no, that was just a fever dream. Like, that didn't really happen.
Yeah, that happens all the time in comic books, and it pisses me off.
And I think that's a bigger issue is, like, just you get all of this, like, you know, dancing around stuff. Like, what if comics and things like that where it's clearly stated this isn't real. Like, it's just a, you know, situation that we're making up because we think it's fun. That's fine on its own, but if it's when something's actually, like, happens and in continuity, and then, like, another writer comes along and says, oh, no, that didn't happen. Like, then it's basically, oh, well, then, you know, screw me, because, like, I enjoyed that arc, and now you're saying that it doesn't matter. It's not part of your continuity as a writer. I don't like that stuff.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
it's
a
my
time
story.
thing is not a big deal.
It's ego. It's ego with a lot of writers in comic books.
Right.
Versus trying to play nice.
Yeah. But I don't know. I just think it's dumb. Like, there's 70 years of examples of, like, bad continuity choices and, like, things that like went over everyone's head and, you know, probably was lost. Or, like, honestly, there's people that still analyze that stuff like crazy. They go back, like, 40 years into a comic's life and they're like, what about this event that happened? That's still in this arc of, like, probably Amazing Spider-Man is a good example because that has literally been running for, like, what, 50 years? Something like that?
1963, yeah.
Yeah. Over 50 years then. I just remember they had an anniversary recently. But yeah, like that's like one comic arc that's been running for over 50 years. Like, it's all continuity technically. Even though, you know, there's been kind of like some universe changes and things like that in there, like dabbling in other universes, not like completely changing. And now, like, the Amazing series is, I think it's Miles, isn't it?
No,
I thought they collapsed the Ultimate Universe, and now Miles was the main.
Nope. I mean, they did, but there's Spider-Man and there's Amazing Spider-Man. Amazing Spider-Man still and forever always will be the flagship because he's Peter Parker.
Okay, well, that's fine. But I know, like, there have been others. Like, Miles has popped up in that series. I thought he was just running it out, but
okay, no. He has his own book called Spider-Man. It's just called Spider-Man.
Gotcha. Makes sense. I haven't caught up in a while. I need to, but.
I don't read either of those books.
I saw the Spider-Man 2 came out, and I was like, do they need another one of those?
Nope, and it's bad. Don't read it.
I'm sure it is.
Not worth it. Let the magic of the first one stick with you.
Yeah, that's another example. Like, I know we're kind of going along in this topic. There's not a lot to talk about, but that's another example of, like, they created the Ultimate Universe to be completely separate continuity so that they could tell new stories, you know, do their own thing with the characters. It was all really interesting stuff. And the point of it was that they could focus more on the individual characters and not so much on the crossovers and things that made people kind of tune out of a lot of the Amazing arcs. The 616 arcs. They're not all called Amazing.
Well, then they hired the older writers who wrote that stuff that people hated and then subsequently imploded the universe.
Well, and a lot of it was like they realized that not a lot of the Ultimate like versions of things were doing well, except for Spider-Man and I think one other thing. I don't remember what exactly right now.
It was really just Spider-Man. Like there was X-Men was doing bad. There was a wannabe Fantastic Four comic that was bad.
Yeah.
Ultimates would come and go, so it's like it was only Spider-Man really.
But they kept like injecting Spider-Man into things, so there would still be all these huge crossovers. And then it like Ultimatum, and they had a few like kind of false ends of the Ultimate Universe where they'd like kill off a bunch of them and start over with new numbering and all this, and like they couldn't stick to their own continuity in this side universe, while the main universe was so lost in its continuity that like, you know, there was arcs upon arcs upon arcs that they couldn't keep up with. And so it's just this whole mess of things where like you had no continuity on one end and way too much continuity on the other end, and it's just like, why focus on that? Like if you have an arc, like I know recently there was this whole thing about the comic numbering going back. So like anything that was kind of a, you know, a reprint or whatever, like it was all like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 instead of like, you know, having 10 issue ones over time. And I know that was a big deal because it was basically combining everything back into a single continuity. But like, why can't you just have, you know, like individual arcs of things? Like have your... Like, with DC, DC does this a lot better. They have, like, Detective Comics, which is entirely its own thing. Like, that Batman is not the same as, like, I can't think of the other, like, the Batman and Robin series. So it's like, you're not worried about, like, oh, well, you know, how is Batman able to go off and do those adventures when he's doing this Detective Comics thing? It's like, doesn't matter. They're not related.
I mean, they are, like, they'll reference each other, but as a comics fan, like, they're all in the universe. They're all connected. Right. But as a comics fan, you pretty much just have to, like, okay, you have to make... Because writers nowadays won't do it, and that's fine, because I'd rather them tell their own story versus worry about continuity. You, as a reader, have to say, well, justify it. Like, well, I'm not reading it, so it doesn't matter to me. Like, there was a point where I read multiple Batman books, and I thought about, like, how is this happening? And I find some random stupid reason to either justify it, or I just don't think about it and just enjoy the story.
Yeah, but there's so many, like it seems like it's a bigger issue with Marvel, where it's like... You know, the beginning of a comic...
DC does it too.
I know, but bigger issue is what I'm saying. Where at the beginning of the comic, it's like, you know, see previous issue of totally unrelated comic to know what happens before this one. So it's like you can go from, you know, like, let's go back to Amazing Spider-Man. Like, Amazing Spider-Man, like, our issue 72, and then Amazing Spider-Man issue 73, and it's like in between that, there were like 3 issues that you missed that weren't in the Amazing Spider-Man comics. They were in like X-Men or Avengers or whatever the case is. And it's just, it gets crazy. And so like these movies are kind of trying to do that now. I mean, they said like Avengers 4 will be the end of a 22 arc or 22 movie arc. There's bound to be some issues. Like they've had a few things already. They mentioned something in Civil War where Vision made a comment to something that like wasn't technically right. And they tried to be like, oh, well, we could tell you that, you know, like, it's this and this and this, but really, it's an oversight. Sorry, it happens. Like,
well, also, the actress in Civil War who confronted Tony Stark about the Sokovia Accords is the same actress who ended up playing Black Mariah in the Luke Cage Netflix show. Now, that being said, the Netflix shows aren't in the same continuity as the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
They are, technically.
At the same time, technically, but political bullshit, they're not as far as I'm concerned.
That's just because on the...
either way...
On the side.
I want to say one thing before we move on because I feel like we're going too long on this and we're just going in circles. That the Spider-Man Homecoming post-credit sequence, the second one, is the best thing ever, and it's very important that you sit all the way through.
Is.
Like, it's imperative, especially for Avengers Infinity War. You're going to want to know what happens. It's really cool. I don't want to say what it is, but let's just say it's one of the coolest scenes they've done. That's my PSA for you.
You don't want to miss it. Like, there's been some throwaway ones in the past, but trust me, you don't want to miss this one.
No. And Hannibal Buress was a throwaway, as I thought it was.
He was. Like, he had, like, I mean, he had, like, his lines were great, but he had, like, 2 lines. I don't blame him for skipping out on the premiere.
I don't even remember him. He was forgettable. All that hype for this guy, I'm like, what the?
I mean, he was tied to those Captain America videos, and so there was just natural funniness around that.
Michelle was funnier than he was in that her one-liners, but it's whatever. Let's move on.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to hop into some news now before the final topic. But first, let's get the obligatory Patreon plug out of the way. So as I've said before, we are entirely supported by Patreon, and of course, our own pockets. But as far as viewers and things are concerned, we are entirely supported by Patreon. And we don't demand anything out of you. Everything is still available for free eventually, but you do get the content early if you support us on Patreon at the $1 level, $1 and above, of course. And so basically everything comes out 5 days early for Patreon supporters, which can be really nice as far as, keeping current on the news and things like that. But we are just pulling it from places online, so I understand that, it's not a major deal. The reason you would get it early is for us, if you enjoy us and the things we ramble about. So please consider that. At the $3 and above level, you see these lovely faces, or my lovely face, since you guys copped out on me this week.
My internet's crappy.
My lovely face. Yeah, I understand.
I'm Batman.
I know. No, you're Uncle Ben. At the $3 and above level, you see our lovely faces live as we record this on YouTube. So that can be fun too, because I do cut some stuff out from the later version. So if you want to see all of our flubs and awkwardness, check us out live. Plus, you can talk to us. We do comment on things, not necessarily as they come in, because we can get into a rhythm with our discussion, but I do keep track of those comments, and we talk about them as they are relevant. So keep that in mind also. And then at the $5 level, we have weekly game giveaways that Thomas takes care of. So I'm sorry, I don't know what those are, but they're usually, like relatively, not like retail releases, but relatively popular, good indie games and things like that. Whatever he has available at the moment. So yeah, that is one way. We also have a store with t-shirts on it. They're lovely. I'm not wearing one right now because I am a failure, but they are lovely. Go check them out. I will have a link to the Patreon and the t-shirt store in the show notes. And of course, you can always just rate and review us on iTunes or Stitcher. That helps our rankings as far as visibility, getting us a better audience to share and possibly get more comments and things like that, so that we can have a better back and forth with our audience. And if you, don't want to do any of that, just watch, listen, share, appreciate us as we appreciate you for supporting us. And that's good enough for me. So.
Also, we have candy.
Right?
Pay no attention to that man in the van.
You promised me candy.
I don't keep any candy. I'm trying to be healthier. I literally have no candy.
We all float down here.
Oh, actually, I do have some runts near me because I forgot about them. But
join us on Patreon. We all float down here.
I don't float, I sink.
And we all float on our... That's the new news song.
Copyright slap.
So yeah, let's move on to some news here. Yeah, I don't have a special news tune for this show. It's a shame.
Sounds like you.
It's the news. That's all.
That'll do. I'll isolate that, and you'll be in every episode.
Awesome. Oh my.
I might not though. That seems a little weird. We'll see. I don't know. Anyway,
0 giveth and 0 taketh away.
Yeah.
Aww.
You never know what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
I'm a mystery.
Whatever. One hit wonder.
But yeah, we're going to start with one of my most hyped trailers of the day. I didn't expect it's the only trailer of the day, but I didn't expect this to release. The Tick, the Amazon version of The Tick, got its official series trailer. This was one of their pilots last summer, I believe it was. Was it just last summer? It feels like it's been longer.
Wasn't it longer?
Maybe. I don't know. I've been waiting for this since the pilot because I really liked the pilot. So maybe it just feels like it's been longer. But it looked really good back then. And it still looks really good. They've improved the suit. The original suit had kind of a weird texture to it. It almost looked too real. And the show had a bit of a grittier tone than this seems to. I think they've embraced the more cartoony elements, kind of like the old Patrick Warburton show. The CGI and effects and stuff look kind of purposefully bad. The whole thing just has a really campy like Batman 66 quality almost to it, and I really like it. Yeah, I'm super satisfied with it, and it's coming very soon. August 25th is what the trailer says. So yeah, I literally like there was a while where I was just refreshing the Amazon Prime like instant page, just assuming maybe they just drop it, kind of like Netflix does. Because I was like, why is it taking so long? But I mean, it is still a superhero show. There are effect shots and fight scenes and things like that, even if it is kind of campier and goofy.
God, I didn't even realize it was Amazon Prime. I have Amazon Prime.
Wow.
I have Amazon Prime, but I know I can't. I don't have Netflix, but I have Amazon Prime. Figure that one out.
I mean, everyone has Amazon Prime. Although it's weird in Canada, because I've heard Canada Amazon sucks. But...
Yes. Yeah. We don't have as much as you guys, but it's still got I got Amazon Prime for Grand Tour, so.
That's fair. But yeah, like there are a few of the other shows that came out at that same like pilot season that are already out, like I Love Dick, which is not a good show, so it doesn't really matter that it's already out. But yeah, so that's why I kept wondering why this wasn't out yet. But we got a date, so that's fine. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out because it looks really good, and more people need to know about the Tick because no one watched the Patrick Warburton show, and that makes me sad. It only got one season. Show. It was.
Yeah.
But I think he's producing this one, I believe. Like he's involved behind the scenes, and I think he's actually in it somehow. I remember reading something about that. Like he gave his blessing for Peter, however you say that guy's last name, to be the new Tick. He said he does a great job. Blah blah blah. He brings a different element to it. But he is still involved in the show somehow, and he hopes the best for it.
That's good.
But Patrick Warburton will always be my Tick because he was fantastic. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm sure that show is available somewhere.
Oh, yeah, it's got to be.
Yeah, but also this show is created by Ben Edlund, who was one of the creators of Supernatural back when it was still good. And he was the one that wrote all of like the funny, like kind of dumb episodes. Like the weird like pop culture related ones. So I know he's going to bring a really good vibe to this show. And the pilot is available on Amazon. Like if you haven't watched the pilot yet, go do that. Because like I said, there's a bit of a different tone to the actual series. But it does pretty much explain the concept of what they're going with. And it's very good. Ben, do you have anything? You like comics, so...
I don't like the Tick.
Really?
It's not my thing. I hated the trailer. It looks too goofy. It looks too cheap. And I watched the Tick when I was probably when I was younger. Maybe I'd like it now, but I was just like, I've never understood the fascination with this character. It's just like, this looks dumb.
All right.
I think that's the charm of it.
Yeah.
Every single, maybe it's just me and this is a broader, every time I try to watch an Amazon show, only one has stuck with me, and that's The Man in the High Castle. Every other one is just like, I don't get why people love this.
I haven't watched many of them.
It's a taste thing, obviously. Right. A lot of them are unappealing and just not interesting enough.
Yeah.
To me, at least.
I mean, I agree with that. But I like Red Oaks. That was actually a surprisingly good kind of like... It feels like an indie comedy movie, but like across the course of like 13 episodes or whatever. And it had its second season. I think it's coming back this summer, actually. Because it's a summer show. So, the live-action Aladdin movie...
Okay, can I just mention one thing with this?
Yeah.
I have been called Aladdin forever because when I had my long, like, kind of poofy hair, I looked like Aladdin. So why is it that every time Aladdin comes up, I'm always on someone's show about this?
Just lucky, I guess.
It doesn't help that I also proposed to my wife by rewriting Show You the World, but...
Show You the... Yeah, I was going to say, that's
cute.
the iconic song from the thing.
Yeah.
It's the best Disney song.
It's one of the best. Let's not go too far.
I'm gonna 0. Yeah, exactly. Stop right there. You could have just said, "Let's move on." Now we're gonna we will have words later.
Fine. Not right now though, because we're already running long. Yeah. Anyway, the live-action Aladdin movie was in open casting. Like they don't do this very often with movies, but they were trying to find the perfect like actual Indian actress and actor to play Aladdin and Jasmine, respectively. And apparently they might have found their Jasmine and Naomi Scott, who is in the new Power Rangers.
Wait, she's gonna be what? Oh, okay. It's like, Okay, I heard Naomi Scott, and I thought that was you referring to the white actress. Is there another Naomi something, or is that Naomi? That's not Naomi.
Are you talking about Naomi
Watts.
Kyle from IGN?
No, from King Kong. There's an actress.
Yeah, that's
Naomi.
Naomi Watts.
I think I heard you saying. I thought you said Watts is like, why are they making Jasmine white? I was about to be very mad.
I don't think she's specifically Indian, but she is like, darker skinned, and I could see her like she looks the part, honestly. If she can sing. I don't know if she can sing.
I don't know.
But like they could do better, but I'm just saying like I wouldn't mind her being cast. But the another actress, an actual like Indian actress, Tara Sutaria, who I've never heard of, is also in the running. But they apparently can't sign her deal until they find someone to play Aladdin because they want to make sure there's chemistry between the two, which makes sense. And this article says that they've done like open casting calls through London, Egypt, India, and other parts of the world with approximately 2,000 actors and actresses reading for these two parts. And they're wanting to get an unknown for Aladdin. Even though they've talked about possibly Riz Ahmed or Dev Patel, which I think Dev Patel specifically would be a terrible option. Because for one, he's not too old, but he has matured a lot in the past few years, and I think he would look too old. And he's too recognizable. But they're looking for two Indian actors. Like, let's make this very clear. They're looking for two Indian actors that can, sing, dance, and act. There's Bollywood. Like, they should be really easy to find. I mean, a lot of Bollywood actors.
Country, can sing and dance.
Yeah, a lot of Bollywood actors are multilingual, and
that
is just as big of a market as Hollywood. How is it so hard to find these two? I don't understand it. But instead they're going with like an Americanized Naomi Scott and can't find an Aladdin. I don't get it.
Except Naomi Scott's from England, so you got an English one there.
Yeah. But like I said, she
Aladdin.
looks like she could be the part. I doubt, like I said, they could do better, but she looks like she could do the part. And then related to this story, Thomas sent me something just because he loves making me talk about wrestling.
I wasn't even going to bring this up, so this is not even my fault.
Well, I wanted to tie it together because I've seen some stuff on Twitter between a few different people. Probably him retweeting them because I don't follow wrestling people. But there's apparently a wrestler, Mustafa Ali, who is petitioning himself to be Aladdin. I guess him and his wife were watching the Broadway musical version. But yeah, he apparently wants to be Aladdin. But again, there's no idea if he can sing and dance or anything. He does wrestling, so he probably understands, movement, like physicality. So usually dancing is easier to learn at that point, but who knows if he can actually sing. But I mean, I like his look, like just from this picture. I don't know who he is, but I like his look.
He'll need a shave.
Yeah, of course. But it shouldn't be that big of a deal if he can't sing, because they cast Johnny Depp as Sweeney Todd and Emma Watson as Belle, and neither of them could sing, but they made that work. So...
You say they made it work, and they didn't make it work in Beauty and the Beast? That wasn't singing?
I mean, she was very auto-tuned, but I'm just saying, like, she was the lead of that movie, and it did well. Like, clearly good singers are not at the top of their list as far as who to cast. It's visibility, if they can do that. And they're already wanting to go with an unknown, so if they... Granted, a wrestler is not an unknown, but it's someone, like, it could be a career starter. It's someone they could build the career for. Just like John Cena, The Rock, things like that.
Yeah. He's an unknown, even relatively in wrestling. He's not that big of a name. Like,
he's verified on Twitter, so...
A lot of wrestlers are verified on
I
Twitter. Just because you're verified on Twitter doesn't mean
I'm
shit.
verified on Twitter. No, I'm not.
No, you're not.
I'm a ghost.
But he is 31, so that could be a bit of an issue.
That's true.
But yeah, I don't know. I just put this in here, put both of these in here, because I think it's ridiculous they can't find people to be Aladdin and Jasmine when they have friggin' Bollywood at their disposal. That was my entire argument.
Hollywood just doesn't want to try.
Basically. I mean, it could be some issue with, like, Bollywood actors, like, not wanting to work, but there's been a lot of, like, Indian talent that's come from Bollywood. People don't realize it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's got to be something going on there. But whatever. Doesn't matter. Moving on. Stranger Things Season 2 got its official release date and a really cool looking poster. Like,
oh my god, yes it was.
I love this poster.
Can't
It's
wait.
so like saturated and telling about what the series is going to be. And it's beautiful.
Yeah, also terrifying as
Yeah.
fuck.
Like, this clearly shows the season's going to be a monster movie. Like, they hinted that, but it's very obvious. So yeah, that looks great, and they announced the release date is October 27th. I guess they didn't want to specifically go for Halloween, because they figured if they do it a little bit earlier, then people will have some good Halloween costume ideas, was the official response.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a quick little thing, but man, this looks good.
I can't wait.
Oh,
I
can't
binge
wait.
watched
Yeah,
this in one day.
Mm-hmm.
Stranger Things was the big surprise for me last year. My dad told me about it. It's like, son, you need to watch Stranger Things. And I'm always skeptical whenever anybody recommends anything, but anytime my dad recommends me something, I know I'm gonna love it. And man, Stranger Things is ridiculously good. Like, it paid homage to what was before, yet it had its own unique identity. And that's what I love about it. And even from that Super Bowl commercial where we got the first hint of that, to whatever this gigantic, I can't get, like, that's the thing that's sticking with me, is whatever this thing is, because I don't ever want to fully see it. Like, I want it to keep kept in shadow, because that's what makes it terrifying.
Exactly.
It's, oh my god, it's just it's this movie, that show, and I'm assuming season 2 will play with my personal fears of the unknown, alternate dimensions. It's just like, I don't want to believe in the shenanigans, but goddamn, this is entertaining television. I'm excited for Stranger Things season 2.
Yeah. And like you said, it was one of those shows that just kind of came out of nowhere. And like, literally, I think the only way people heard about it was word of mouth. Because it's one of those that
blew
Netflix
up.
just like dropped on there. Like, they didn't really advertise it very much, which they do with a lot of their shows, but they're usually a little higher profile. This was an entirely original thing from, I mean, a pair of showrunners that weren't really that well known. And so it just kind of popped onto Netflix. And so I'm sure there were people that were just like, oh, I wonder what this is. I'll check it out. It's a Netflix original. I like those. And then suddenly it blew up. And like, I heard about it just in passing, because I had seen, like, I think I'd seen like the trailer on Netflix. Like, I hadn't watched it, but I'd seen that it was there advertising some show called Stranger Things coming soon. And I was like, meh, I don't care. I guess not. I figure if it was a big deal, I would have heard about it, like, you know, on like news and stuff like that I follow. Usually IGN. But I hadn't, so I was like, it must not be that, you know, it must not be anything I care about. And then I kept hearing from multiple people, and I'm like, okay, I'll check it out. And then, yeah, like you said, just pretty much watched it in one sitting. It was crazy. So now it's like the thing to watch out for. It's crazy how fast those things can change.
I just hope they don't screw it up.
I doubt it. I doubt they will.
Yeah. I hope it doesn't have a sophomore slump either.
Real quick, we're just gonna briefly talk about the cast of the New Warriors show, which is the freeform comedy like Marvel show. Was finally announced.
Still can't believe this is a thing.
I know, I can't either. And there's not a lot of like notable names in here. Like, I don't really know who 90% of these people are. But I was trying to get a picture up, but whatever. The AT&T girl, like the AT&T commercial girl, is Squirrel Girl, and I think that's amazing. She's in more than that. Like, I actually really like her as an actress. But most people, you know, that are just listening to this casually would probably know her from the AT&T commercials. But like before, like when this was first announced, everyone was like, "Oh, we have to get Anna Kendrick as Squirrel Girl in a movie." And like when they announced it was going to be a TV show, I was like, I can't think of anyone that would be a good Squirrel Girl. And now that it's been announced, there we go. She kind of looks like Velma here, but whatever, it works. Whenever the cast was announced, I was like, that's perfect. Actually, I never would have thought of her because, like I said, she's not really a big name. I don't even really know how to pronounce her name. Milana Vaintrub. I don't know. We'll go with that. But yeah, when they showed her, I was like, I pictured her like even in this Squirrel Girl suit, and I was like, that's gonna look really good. Like not just from like a like she's really attractive and that's like a good role, but also just like I picture her like being popped out of the comics. So I was really impressed with that. And then there's also Craig Hollis as Mr. Immortal. I guess he's from some other, like, I think another Freeform show. Again, I don't really know who he is. And then I'm just saying these in case people know these names. Jeremy Tardy as Night Thrasher, Callum Worthy as Speedball, Matthew Moy as Microbe, and Katie Comer as Debris. These are all, looks like they're all TV people. It gives like a single credit for each of them.
The team is missing some people, but other than that, it's a fine cast.
Yeah. I mean, I'm mostly it's just because, like, you know, Squirrel Girl is weirdly high profile these days.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Everything I've heard about this is like it's not really, you know, New Warriors cast announced. It's
Squirrel Girl and her team announced.
Yeah, or like, you know, Marvel cast it's Squirrel Girl. Like,
I don't. I don't.
The show is just kind of a side thing.
Yeah, minor rant. I don't understand the love affair with Squirrel Girl. Like, I don't get.
It's probably a furry thing.
I mean, it could be, but it's not just furries. Because I know people who love Squirrel Girl and who aren't furries.
I know.
But it's like,
I'm just being
I mean, she's very attractive, but it's just like she's showing up in a lot of recent comics, and it's like, when the hell did Squirrel Girl blew up? Like, I don't care
think
enough
it's that same
character.
Deadpool mentality. Like, she's the quirky thing that, like, you know, has self-referential humor and like fourth wall breaking sometimes in recent comics and things like that.
I don't read her
it's
comics,
that same
so
idea.
I don't know.
I've just seen panels and things. I haven't read them, but
yeah, neither
I've
do
seen
I.
individual panels that are very self-referential and goofy, and she has that same kind of, like, you know, the Deadpool kills the Marvel universe. She has that same kind of like meta type storylines.
I never in any of those did the Squirrel Girl stuff I've read. Again, it was always in team stuff because she never had a solo book as far as I learned until recently. It was just
her solo
pretty
book
much
has had.
Okay, well, that's a new thing. That's something.
I'm generalizing a little bit. Like, it's not to that extreme. I'm just saying it has some of those elements.
That's weird that it's in there though, because she was never that before. But anyways, the only thing I know about Squirrel Girl is that she had a relationship with Wolverine because they never said it, but they hinted at it because they're always awkward around each other. And she beat up Dr. Doom. That's it. That's all I know about her, and that she can talk to squirrels, and she's cute. And why she blew up, I don't know. But the fur community is strong.
Right. But like I said, this is a good cast. I actually really like her mostly because of it was a one season Yahoo Screen original show that was really good. It had like a fantastic cast of nobodies, and like a few of the voices from Mystery Science Theater, like the robot voices, were voiced robots in this show because it was a space show. I can't recall the name of it right now. That's why I'm not saying it. And then it had her and the little Indian kid from Deadpool, like the taxi driver. He was in it before Deadpool happened, and a few other random people. But Dave Franco, I think, was a guest star in like the first 2 episodes for some random reason. But yeah, it was a really good show, and she was one of the cast members, and I enjoyed that a lot. Like I said, it didn't get picked up or anything, but then she also, like, I've been watching Silicon Valley, and she's like in that at least once. I don't know if she shows up again because we're just season 1. But yeah, so she's been kind of making a name for herself. I feel like she's going to be the next, like, Olivia Munn. Like that, you know, that character that's, like, just doing commercials and, like, random... Well, in that case, it was G4. But, like, you know, random TV stuff, and then suddenly pops up and, like, becomes a movie star, and, like... Yeah, so I think that's cool when people can do that, like, make that transition. Because all I see in the comments are, like, why would they cast the AT&T girl? Like, that's so distracting. But it's like, she's an actress. Like, that's a role for her, just like anything else.
Yeah, I'm sure she'll be fine.
I don't know. Yeah, it's cool.
I'll always... I when I had cable, I was like watching those AT&T ads because she was really cute and funny.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly.
I might have a crush.
People are comparing it to like Flo. Like, you wouldn't have Flo in a Marvel movie. It's like, it's not
you
the
might.
same thing at all. She's been doing those commercials.
Actually, she
for 10
wouldn't
years.
be a bad Squirrel Girl visually. Like, she wouldn't be a bad Squirrel Girl.
She's too old now.
Maybe, but like, I mean, nothing necessarily says Squirrel Girl has to be a young teenage girl. So it's like, you know, it's whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of a side tangent. Real quick, I don't really have much to say about this, but apparently the next DC animated film will be Batman Gotham by Gaslight. It's hinted at in the back of the Blu-ray cover for the most recent animated movie. It's the Batman and Harley Quinn movie.
Yeah, usually that whenever they put it there, that's the next one.
Yeah. But I don't know the story very well, but it sounds kind of cool. Like, it's just like
it's really cool.
self-contained story.
Yeah, it's really
and I'm
cool.
sure it would be really cool, like, you know, visually in a movie, like the way they could pull off the visuals of that, being like a like an old timey thing rather than a modern day just superhero like smash-a-thon.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know much about it, so this is probably your thing.
Yeah, I mean, I never read it, but like I've seen it referenced as one of the more unique visual looking Batman stories ever. It's referenced a lot, but I don't personally have taken it. I'm just waiting for them to do Kingdom Come already. It's been too damn long for them to not do that by now.
I mean, they seem to be going more obscure, so who knows where they'll go next.
Kingdom Come's not obscure. Like, it's one of the more celebrated DC stories. That's just like, they've been doing these this October would be 10 years of them doing these movies, and like Kingdom Come has always been on my short list, and they've done a lot. They haven't done that one, and they're doing Gotham and Gaslight is fine. It's a fine choice, but it's just like, I don't want another Batman movie.
Well, I wasn't meaning like that's obscure. I was just saying like with how obscure they've been going, it's impossible to say where they'll go next.
Yeah, it's like weird. I get the Batman Harley Quinn stuff because Harley Quinn's popular, but it's just like Gotham Gaslight's fine. It's just like I feel like it's weird.
And then finally, we have this thing that's your topic, so I'll just let you talk about it. The Netflix orders the Umbrella Academy live-action series.
Yes! So, I came across this on Twitter a while ago, but the Umbrella Academy, if you aren't sure, it's a comic book published by Dark Horse. And first published in 2007. There's 2 miniseries. One's called, and I have the volumes right in front of me, so if you heard some shuffling, that was me grabbing the graphic novels. First one's called The Apocalypse Suite. Second one's called Dallas. It's written by Gerard Way, yes, the guy behind My Chemical Romance, who's actually a really good comic book writer. Like, he's really good. It's just he's too busy doing My Chemical Romance stuff or music stuff to write comics full time.
Yeah, I've heard of some other stuff he's written. It's always been well received.
Anytime I've pretty much read everything he's done, because it's not a big collection of work, but every time he's done something, I always try it because it's always going to be he's just good. And the thing that I say about the Umbrella Academy is like it's basically the X-Men, but weirder. It's like turn up to 11. Like, it's so fucking weird. There's time travel. There's a talking baby. The characters are named. I'll lift up the name of the characters, give you how weird this is. The characters are Sir Reginald Hargreaves, Space Boy, the Kraken, the Rumor, the Seance, the Boy, the Horror, the White Violin. There's time travel. There's time travel. The Kennedy assassination's involved. It gets weird, and it all makes sense within the universe. So when you asked me like what properties would get made last week, I thought of the Umbrella Academy, and I was like, nah, that'll never happen, even on a effing wish list. And then a week later, it's a live action, so I wonder how crazy they're going to be with this. And there is a rumored 3rd and 4th volumes coming out, but of course Gerard Way's really busy. I think he's doing stuff for DC right now. But it's like it's so nuts, and I'm curious to see how faithful they're going to be to the nuttiness. Again, I don't expect a 1-to-1 adaptation, but I want that spirit of insanity that's in the Umbrella Academy. Like, it's just so what the fuck is going on? Not Twin Peaks, what the fuck is going on, but absurd levels of what the fuck is going on that you would expect from something like this. So yeah, if you haven't read it, it's only 2 volumes, so you don't have a lot to read. Probably can find them somewhere at a used bookstore or any good comic book shop. Go read it. I don't really know.
I gotta get through Saga first.
This is shorter. It's 2 volumes. It's literally 2 volumes. There's nothing more been pursued since then. I don't really know much about the showrunners. I'm surprised it's coming out in 2018. But hey, it's great. I can't wait to see. I'm gonna be following this project because I want to see what they do. I can't wait.
Well, cool. Yeah, I'll probably never get like the Saga series I'd love to get because it probably also wouldn't be good with the way that comic is lined up. Like, I don't see how they could manage that on a TV budget, and it wouldn't be a good movie. So, but I really want, like, I've been waiting forever for a Why the Last Man series, and it always like it'll go into production and then like stall. Or like get picked up by a new showrunner and then never get made, and so it's always cool when these like obscure or like lesser known comics get their day.
Oh yeah, and again, if you're thinking, he's My Chemical Romance guy, because I've heard that I've heard it plenty of times when I've read this book. Like, he's good. He understands what makes comics great. He doesn't make the rookie mistakes. Gerard Way is a disciple of comic books, despite that he does music for a band I don't really like.
I mean, he probably writes the music, and if he can write, good lyrics, then he can write good prose. Like,
prose. I'm
not demeaning writers. I know. I'm not. Sorry, I was trying to say a clever way of like narrative.
Yeah, yeah. No, I get you.
But like, I'm not demeaning writers, saying like, well, if you can write one thing, you can write the other. But I'm just saying like, there's a lot of nuance involved in like songwriting, and it's in small chunks. That has to be a kind of a special way of writing, which I think could easily translate to comics, because it's also a special way of writing in small chunks where you have to convey a lot of meaning without a lot of text. So it works. But anyway, that's all the news we got. So we're going to pop over to our final topic. I'll just let you take over, because this should be good.
Yeah, so I kind of, not gonna lie, I kind of came up with this as a last second because I really wasn't thinking this week. But it's a trend that I've seen, it's mainly on social media, because and occasionally when I go to the movie theater, that because of the rise of Rotten Tomatoes, not recently, but like how it's been an establishment now, that everybody who sees a goddamn movie, goddamn television show, listens to a goddamn album, I'm gonna say goddamn one more time, a goddamn book, that they try to articulate their points like they're reviewers, and that they try to critically analyze something without actually doing any critical thinking, and thinking that their review is important because, well, I'm clearly this. And I personally just want to deliver a message to you all. You're not reviewers. Stop thinking like you're reviewers. Like, if you like, I hear people use terms like pacing and scene structure, and then hear them say, by the way, I'm a creeper who sits at the mall listening to other people's conversations. And I hear them say it, and I'm like, and I'm just thinking, you don't fucking know what any of this means. You don't know what, like you're just saying words. What does that mean? That's from a show, I think. Like, you're just saying words. I don't think you understand what that word means. Oh, it's Princess Bride. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So it's like, and at the comic shop, like when I'm walking around, like I hear people talk about comics, like just people, like, and I understand everybody has a blog now, but it's like talking about, I don't like the pacing for this comic book, and like, and I remember asking, do you know what pacing is? Like, do you actually know what that means? And he got mad and left and everything. It's like people try to articulate the thoughts because they hear buzzwords on the internet, and they see their favorite reviewer. I'm just going to put my credit there. I'm a reviewer. I get paid by 2 different sites to write reviews on a relatively weekly basis. So, I forced myself to learn what is pacing, what is good pacing, what are these terms that I'm talking about. And when I hear just casual people just throw these out, I'm just thinking, you're doing yourself a disservice by, using these terms. You have no idea what they mean, and to them it paints either a better picture, which I guess is good, that might be a fine thing, where like, I thought it was this, and so therefore it's good, or they think the movie's bad because of XYZ, because they heard these terms from this reviewer who they happen to watch or follow. And I think that's a mistake. I think you as a person should understand, like, no, that's not where my level of thinking is for this movie. And you should stop thinking that way. That doesn't mean you should eventually aspire to develop your own critical thinking analysis for films and other sorts of media, but understand what the words you're using first, because then you spread misinformation about movies and media, and you get and especially it's more on the negative side, you spread that information further, and then that gets the word of mouth, and eventually that thing starts to say, well, this is bad because this person at the top said it, so therefore it gets replicated over and over again, and then it tanks. All because a trend was followed. Versus using your own judgment and critical analysis to see, well, like, no, this is how it works. And understanding what the phrases that reviewer is using. Does that make sense? I'm just sick and tired of people using phrases they don't understand, basically.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that comes back to what we were talking about earlier with the internet culture, because everyone has a soapbox. Like, if they have 20 followers on Twitter, they're gonna pretend like they have, 3,000 and like preach whatever their opinions are as fact, rather than, most reviews, even official reviews, are subjective. So saying anything as like, this is just how it is wrong. I don't care who you are, it's wrong. There is no objective review of any form of product, in my opinion.
No, I agree. Like, whenever I do things, like, I watch reviews all the time from people and I get different point of views, but in the end, I always go and view it for myself, because it's like, what do I actually think of it? And you can watch your favorite review. I have a bunch of favorite reviewers that I love, that I watch, but I still go and see it, and I could have a completely different opinion from the story, or I might agree with it, but I probably won't use the words like pacing or things like that. I'll use words that I know how to use.
Yeah. Like, I had my opinions on Spider-Man, but I wasn't saying them as fact. I was just saying, like, I prefer this thing, so, you know, like, what I got didn't please me as much as, like, what I wanted out of it because of what I've gotten before. Like, that's considered a review, yes, because it's my views on that product, but I wasn't, like, putting that out as some kind of, like, major critical objective thought. It's just like, hey, here's what I thought.
It's opinion, not a fact.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, but so many people use that idea to, you know, like I said, preach to others. It's like, you shouldn't see this because this, and this. And they're like, oh, really? I didn't know that. It's like, no, that's just what you got out of it. Don't tell them that's how it is. I don't know. I definitely get what you mean. But I think it's a little more complicated than just, like, people need to know the words they're using. I think it's more about, like, why, you know, people say these things. And it's a part of it's that clickbait culture too.
Ugh.
Because people want to have, like, opposing opinions to everyone else so that they get, you know, their views or whatever, or they get attention. Because, like, if you say, like, if you were the person that said, you know, Spider-Man Homecoming sucks, people would engage with you and be like, what? I thought it was amazing. And you're like, no, it was bad for this, the reason. Or, you know, as it went on, it'd be like, well, okay, it wasn't all bad. You know, there were good moments. But this one scene really made me mad. And it's like, okay, then it didn't suck. Like, you just said that to get me in here. So there's so much to it of, like, why people are the way they are. And I think it hurts the idea of an objective review, which, again, I don't think that you can have one. But, it like, if it were possible to be objective, like, solely objective, then you would have to be able to put something out there that is essentially fact, that is, like, indisputable as true. But when everyone has their own opinions, you can't really do that. So it all comes down to how you feel about it and what your review is of it, which is also why I think a lot of, like, aggregators are kind of dumb, because they're taking, like, the new Netflix system. Netflix changed their star system to a thumbs up or thumbs down.
Roman gladiator style, bitches.
Yeah. So basically everything that they have on there, I know this is related, I promise. Everything they have on there is either, you know, you liked it or you didn't like it. Nothing in between. So, like, the actual rating of the show or whatever is a percentage of total likes and dislikes. But that's not a good system because there's no margin for error there. So, like, if everyone likes something, it's going to be 100%, like, this show is 100% good, basically. And sure, I don't think there's anything that everyone likes. But if you're like, I mean, it was okay, like, I'd recommend it to someone, you're going to thumbs up it, even if it wasn't an amazing show. So, in that case, like, where you would maybe give it, you know, a 3-star or, like, 4-star, you know, something middle of the road, you would just give it a thumbs up. There's no other option. Because you're not going to thumbs down it because you didn't hate it, but it wasn't your favorite thing. So it's that kind of idea of, like, I don't necessarily like aggregators because they take, like, multiple people's scores and just break it down to a total percentage of, like, this is the one true thing. Take this. Where some people are going to be really negative, some people are going to be overly positive. Yeah, it should even out, but it doesn't always. And you get these examples where, like, things that are just okay are, you know, given, like, a 91% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, for example, because the ones that are more heavily weighted give it a really good score for whatever reason. And actual viewers would give it maybe a lower score, which, again, you know, you could argue their opinions don't matter as much because they're not trained or whatever, but they're the ones that are going in with, you know, the mind of a viewer, not the mind of a critic. So the everyday watcher, they might not phrase their opinions as eloquently or anything, but they're the everyman voice. They're not trained to critique these movies. So you get things like, the Emoji Movie or Transformers or whatever, which the new Transformers, I think, is objectively terrible. I'm pretty sure that's been decided. But there's still people that like it because they're just like, oh, it's dumb fun, whatever. I don't care. It's flashy. I'm not a smart person, so I don't care if this is dumb. That was mean, probably. I don't know. I can't tell anymore. But
I didn't take offense to it. I'm Canadian. You're fine.
Okay, cool. I'm good then. Because you are the most critical of people up there.
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, so you get these people that are just watchers. They're just everyday, like enjoyment people. That's a phrase. And they're going to be the ones that are arguably the most logical opinion. I don't think they should review things. Like, I don't think they should have a weighted, like, scored review necessarily. But, like, those opinions that come out are going to be the opinion of every person that's going to watch it. Whereas the critic is going to see the like, merit of that movie or show or whatever it is. They're going to analyze the pacing and the script and the acting quality and all of that stuff. Whereas the everyday viewer is going to be like, yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed it. I laughed. Like, it had emotional moments. It was good. That's all they have to do. So I understand your point, but I also understand the value of having those, like, everyday opinions. I just don't think they should be the ones, like, pushing their reviews as fact. I think it should be more simple. Yeah, I liked
Shortest YouTube video ever. Yeah, I liked it.
That being said, though, one of my favorite reviews is a review on Super Smash Brothers where it's a 4-minute video and talking about the history of Smash Brothers, and the review is, yeah, it's pretty good, and video ends. I could not stop laughing for 20 minutes. I was like, that was fucking glorious.
And again, like, there's merit to that, that idea of just, like, a simple, like viewer review. So, it is a joke, but I get why people talk about things on social media. I mean, I praised the crap out of Baby Driver on Facebook and on here, but on on Facebook after I watched it, because, like, it had a lot of really good things about it. Like, critically, there's definitely some issues with it, but from a viewer standpoint, like, a lot of really good elements to it that I think are enjoyable. Just, like, sit down and watch. Like, turn your brain off for a little while, don't think about the logical fallacies, and just watch. Spider-Man's another example. It has some flaws, but it's the most I've laughed at a Spider-Man movie. So that says something. I mean, I'm not paid to review things, so at the end of the day, like, I'm just kind of coming at things from my point of view. And I'm more critical because I understand filmmaking, to an extent. I have learned plenty about video production. I was paid to, do news packets for a while, so I understand, like, shot composition and things like that to an extent. That's why I'm more critical of, like, action scenes and things that aren't shot well. Iron Fist. Sorry, I forgot to cough. But
there you go.
Yeah. But I am just a viewer. Like, my opinions don't matter that much, but I do have a platform like everyone else does, so I share my thoughts. That's just how it is. That's the nature of the internet these days. Everyone shares their thoughts because it's super cheap to have a platform to share your thoughts on. You might not have an audience, but you can still share your thoughts and think that you matter. So it's going to keep happening, whether you like it or not.
I know. This is why I wear headphones wherever I go, because I just drown out humanity.
But then they pull your headphones out and tell you garbage things.
No, then then I go all Mexican cholo on their asses, and then they call the cops. And
I thought you were going to say you're going to take the wire from the headphones and start strangling them.
No, I was going to say I wear Bluetooth, but I was like, I just back away.
I was going to say, do you have, like, those iPhone wireless ones? You just, like, take them and shove them down their mouth and hope they choke?
Probably, yeah. Don't PSA, don't fucking rip people. A person has headphones on, they don't respond to you, they don't want to talk to you. Just leave them alone.
It's got a little dark at the end. This always gets dark at the end. I think
because
it's go for
people
2
don't
hours,
fucking
and it's like
zero. People don't leave me the fuck alone on the bus. I have my headphones on. I'm either playing a game, read a comic book. I want to be left alone. There's a fucking map. I'm sorry. Don't fucking talk to me.
I just don't like. I know we're getting on off topic again, but I don't understand how so many people talk to you on the bus. I mean, I've been on the bus a few times, not that much.
They think I'm
I've
fucking
never
Mexican
been talked to
Santa
on the
Claus.
bus.
That's why.
I guess.
I'm in Canada and no
so
one ever
weird.
talks to me on the bus or train.
Like, if I want to talk to somebody, that's fine. If they acknowledge me, that's one thing. But like, when I'm deliberately ignoring somebody, that means get the fucking message.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus Christ.
People are
I
weird.
talk to you because I know you're probably just gonna ask me for money. I don't know you.
Like I know we're kind of making a point about how like people rely too much on the internet and they need to have better, interpersonal communication. But you also, again, you need to like understand like etiquette.
Social norms.
So know when not to talk to someone. Yeah. But anyway, we're gonna end this off because I think that's about the end of that topic. But yeah, this has been a podcast, I'd say. The 10th podcast specifically. I, as always, have been Justin. I am Zero Score on all the places. I don't usually start with myself. I'm sorry, that was rude. David, plug your crap.
Plug my crap. I don't have any crap right now. I'm David, 10 Button Gamer. You can find me on YouTube, Twitter. I really don't do much, so don't expect much from me. But thanks for having me.
I mean, I'm still going to put your link in the show notes, but I realize that you're not doing much because you're in school. But also, he'll be in Final Fantasy VI eventually. Actually, I think you're the Phantom Train, aren't you?
I'm the Phantom Train, and I was the dead soldier.
Yeah. I was going to say, I warped the Phantom Train all to crap because it is, it's a Phantom Train, so I couldn't actually remember who it was, but I thought it was you.
Yeah, it was me.
Oh,
Okay.
man, you're going to get taken to Suplex City. This is going to be hilarious.
Oh.
Yeah. And
Am I
then
supposed to be
Strago
making
will
some
show
sort
up
of-
eventually.
Like, train sound that's dying?
No. No, I just said that just to make Justin mad because that's a wrestling reference.
Suplex?
Suplex City, yeah, it's a wrestling catchphrase.
I cannot confirm nor deny if the train gets suplexed.
If you did not suplex the train,
Please
I'm
tell me
gonna
so
be
you just
mad,
used a
Justin.
Phoenix down on it.
Now it gives me more reason to watch this coming weekend.
I think it'd be
Exactly.
better if it was just a Phoenix down and just killed the Phantom Train. That'd be perfect.
Can you do that?
Yeah,
It's a
in the original
dead
one you
thing.
could, but I'm not sure about the remake.
I never thought, because I know you can do that with undead creatures, but it's a train, so
technically
it
it's undead.
works the
It's
same
a
way.
No,
it's a
yeah,
phantom train.
I know for 100% for a fact that the Super Nintendo you could just use a Phoenix down on it and it was instant death. I played that a lot as a kid.
Anyway, Ben, plug your crap.
Follow me at twitter.com /Marvelous Iggy, where you can follow the self-proclaimed Marvelous One. And I just finished my Let's Play of Mega Man X2. Proud to announce that my next Let's Play will be Freedom Planet, because I want to celebrate Sonic the Hedgehog and the 26th anniversary of Sonic the Hedgehog, especially with Sonic
By
Forces
playing the
coming out
best
later
Sonic game?
Well, I was going to play Sonic Adventure 1, right? I was going to actually do that, but I was like,
But that's garbage.
nah.
What are you talking about? Sonic 06 is the best. Jeez.
I'm not gonna debate you, Zero, but I didn't want to play Sonic Adventure because I wasn't confident in my skills to do a competent Let's Play. Plus, I don't have the means to capture it that well right now. So I
Plus, that
figured,
game is
let's
garbage.
do a game. I wanted to do something that celebrated the legacy, the good legacy of Sonic the Hedgehog, and Freedom Planet is an excellent example of inspiration from the Mighty Blue Blur. So I don't know when it's going to start. I haven't started recording yet at the time of this recording. Hopefully by next podcast, I will at least start recording. No publishing day, but my goal right now is to start uploading episodes by the time Sonic Mania releases. It's not that long of a game. It's just I want to have a lot in the bank before I start uploading, so I have a frequent upload schedule in between that and in my next LP series, which I already have in mind. But yeah, Freedom Planet coming up next. If you're interested in Let's Plays, I'm relatively okay. I'm going to stick with live commentary because I figured I need to get better at that because I want to do that. And yeah, twitter.com /Marvelous Iggy, and then go over to Zero Score's handle where he is not the self-proclaimed something because he wants to be.
Can I just be the self-proclaimed something?
I mean, sure, yeah. I mean,
I'm the self-proclaimed something or other. I don't know. That's pretty
He's
good.
the self-proclaimed guy.
Yeah, that guy that looks like every other guy, because I have like a million doppelgangers out there.
One day I won't be the self-proclaimed Marvelous Iggy. When I become Twitter verified, I'll just become the Marvelous one. There you go.
Yep. I already plugged myself, but because I have another Final Fantasy wink, forgot the wink. Sorry. But because I have another Final Fantasy cast member on here, I want to just say real quick that I'm still working on getting Final Fantasy 9 prepared. I'm hoping to like actually get some stuff ready for auditions in the next few weeks. Like to announce them, not to, I'll have them obviously, but I want a good like month or two of like time for people to get their audition stuff in. So yeah, I'm working on that, but I don't technically need to beat the game before I get that stuff ready. It's just I've been kind of busy. I haven't really played that much. So yeah, that should be coming in the next week or two. If you are still listening to this, feel free to hold me to that so I actually get it done if you want to audition. If you don't, you probably don't care anyway. You already tuned out.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's all for this week, folks. I don't know why I'm talking so slow.
I'm William Shatner.
But until next time, stay charged.
Bye.